Biologist Sharon Moalem set out to answer all those questions and more in his new book, How Sex Works. And he's here today to let us in on the science behind the attraction. It's so great to have you here today. Thanks so much. Such an interesting topic. And so tell us a little bit about who's more in control when we go out and we meet someone and we find we're attracted to them. Is it our mind or is it our bodies?
Well, it's definitely a combination of both. But what's really interesting is most people don't think about the biological influences of attraction. So take, for example, ovulation. So for that kind of 72-hour, every month, that period where a woman is very fertile, she's actually prone to having one-night stands. And she may not even be aware that that's the time that she's having all these thoughts. And even if she's in a relationship, she's actually more prone to be cheating during that time.
And why is that from a biological perspective? Why would a woman who's ovulating want to cheat?
Because her body's ready to reproduce.
Right.
So in a way, and even some studies have shown that women will dress more seductively during that period. It's almost they want to advertise unknowingly that they're ready to reproduce.
Interesting. And have there been any studies that show when women who are ovulating cheat, do they cheat with men who are like their husbands or different from their husbands?
Well, it's a great question. They tend to seek out men who are much more masculine. And masculine traits, of course, is a square jaw, deeper voice, a bigger physique or a bigger build. And kind of this is a biological throwback if you think about it, because essentially women want these traits for their children because they want their children to have more children. And the reason that they don't pick this as a primary partner, these aren't always the best men to kind of to stay around.
So I take it that women tend to marry the stable guy who'll stick around and help raise the offspring, but when they're looking for perhaps the stronger gene pool, she might fool around with the bad boy.
Right, and some people call this the milkman effect. And I originally started as an Alzheimer's researcher, and what we noticed when we looked at really large families is that a lot of the kids weren't related to the dads. And when we went back to the lab, we thought maybe we made a mistake. And when we rechecked it, it turned out that there was actually a lot more cheating going on than people realized.
But of course, and it works both ways, correct? So men should know that there is some biological background to the 7-year itch, correct? Explain that.
Exactly. So, a lot of people don't think about, they just attribute it to the stress of having kids. But the real reason is humans, we're mammals, of course. When we give birth to children, they need a lot more care. So we tend to kind of have that love to help us, ignore all the stressors of life, to help us stay together. And essentially when kids are independent enough, which is usually around 6 or 7, to start fending for themselves, at least initially, I think that's when couples start kind of biologically, that's the drive to start looking for other options.
And when the male might be thinking, I need to create more kids and roam around a little bit, from a biological perspective,
exactly.
obviously.
So, and again, we have free choice, but
right.
These are just some of the influences, of course, because for men, and especially from this biological perspective that we're talking about, there was an alimony. So for men, it wasn't as costly as having kids as it is, of course, for women.
Right, and because like we said earlier, a woman has to be choosier because any kind of intercourse could result in offspring, which takes a lot of work to raise on your own, obviously, whereas men don't quite have that same calculation.
Right.
Now, if men and women, though, do reproduce, that's only the first goal from Mother Nature's perspective. She also needs to keep them around long enough to raise the kid, at least until this 7-year period we're talking about. So how does she do that? So
that's actually where the function of love comes in.
Okay.
Love is this magical thing that kind of helps you ignore other possibilities when it comes to relationships. And actually studies have bared this out. So they looked at couples that reported to be in love and showed them images that they would typically be attracted to of the opposite sex. And it seems that the couples who reported, the individuals, when they reported to be in love, they actually almost ignored or deflected these images and kept their focus on their primary partner.
So are we being a little cynical here, or is this just science?
Well, I think it's important to know kind of the biological influences to our attraction. See, many women who might be ovulating might feel guilty to having these extramarital thoughts about other partners, and to know that there is a biological origin to their feelings might help them understand them and feel a lot less guilty.
And help them deal with them. The same going for men who might be feeling that 7-year itch. They can sort of intellectually recognize where it's coming from and stop it before it gets any further. Now, let's talk a little bit about types. Now, you say that in general, from the female perspective, tall, dark, and handsome is appealing across cultures. Is that correct?
Right, and this is fascinating. So why would women be attracted to darker men? And it all has to do with sperm quality. So just like women need folic acid when they're pregnant to make sure that the pregnancy develops normally, men need folic acid to make sperm. Men make millions of sperms, 100 million a day actually, on average. That's a lot of sperm. So you need a lot of folic acid. And now folic acid is actually destroyed by the sunlight. So having a bit of darker pigment can help. But then why aren't all men dark?
Right.
Well, if you're too dark, then you don't make enough vitamin D that you also need and you make through the sun. So it's this balance of biology to kind of come up with this.
So the dark-haired, blue-eyed ideal now, right? now let's talk a little bit about what men are attracted to, rather. The curvaceous figure, you say?
Yeah, and again, this is one cross-cultural. You know, many men are actually looking for this curvaceous woman, and why? Well, essentially, women show their biological bank account in their curves. They show that the fat that they're carrying, that's actually a currency that they can use to go and develop a child.
There.
So men may be attracted to women who do have those curves because they know that they can see a pregnancy through. And actually, women who lose too much weight, who don't have those curves, stop ovulating.
Good advice to women: don't get too skinny. You won't be as attractive. And to read a passage from How Sex Works, be sure to log on to the health page at abcnews.com.